So we're live right now, guys. But my challenge is... Yeah, no. I'm talking to the live stream. They can see that picture. But I'm talking, saying we're ready to go live. And Alex is here like, is it? All right, then. God, Van Gene's the worst, and we can't even see him yet.
Van Gene's the best.
Oh, hang on. Oh, my God. He just headbutted his mic.
I haven't touched the mic. You're the one that is unprofessional enough to do that kind of stuff.
Mic. Steve, can we please mute Alex? Hang on, we should say hi now, shouldn't we? Hi, guys. It's the live stream pre-show. Oh, in fact, that's not that much of an issue anymore because this bit will know... Well, no. If you get the link, if you can find the link, if you can hunt it down, if you're a patron, or I'll probably link it in the show notes, the other videos anyway, you can watch the whole live stream back. But we're going to do segments. So we're going to do like the big ticket item. We're going to do the team orders as a video where we argue about that. Then we'll go like Verstappen. Oh no, people don't like me posting spoilers in titles, but everyone does it. All the outlets do it. So that segment should be Verstappen domination. And people go, oh no, you've spoiled the result. Just watch F1 on Sunday. I don't care. I don't care that you're a paramedic saving lives. It's up to you to block everything until you've seen the Grand Prix, in my opinion.
It's your fault for taking
hello,
a
Alex.
job that makes. It's your fault for taking a job that makes you work on weekends.
Yeah.
That's why I never sold. That's why I never sold cars or houses, because then I have to work weekends.
Geez, Matt, who would ever have a job that makes you work on weekends?
Or a job that just makes you work whenever the job happens. Who would make such a ridiculous choice? Oh, no, not me. Certainly not me. I have a perfectly regular schedule that doesn't change on a moment's notice.
There you go. Can everyone hear us? Everyone hear us, by the way? I just say hi. It's me, Alex, and Matt on today. And by the way, the sun's gone down now, but it's a blood moon outside. So I don't know if that's like everywhere in the world or specific to here.
I saw it driving home from my golf tournament Friday night, and it was really terrifying.
You entered a golf tournament? Aw, without me?
Accidentally, but yes.
Come and play some golf, and then you find yourself in a tournament. That happened to me with tennis once, yeah.
That was exactly what happened. Thank you.
So there was a tennis tournament happening, right? And it was basically like a league and then a knockout or whatever, and then finals. And they said, hey, Rich, come and join in this tournament. We're like one short for the men's doubles, and it was a 4-hour tournament. I said, guys, I've got to get out of here in 2 hours. And they said, don't worry, the group stages finish after 2 hours. Rude. How rude is that? Just like a full assumption that I'd be knocked out.
Especially because we've heard from Kyle how excellent you are. Does that just mean that Kyle's rubbish?
It just means Kyle's rubbish, sadly. I've made some progress in the tennis world, enough that, I take it seriously, but I'm definitely at my level. I'm not.
Could have been a prodigy if you just got into it younger.
Not at all. This is my midlife crisis. This is. So, Alex, you're quite a bit louder than Matt now that you've come into excited voice. Now that you're like...
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Like, do I need to get more excited?
No, I think we're about right. It's just like, Alex, can you do a sound check? Yeah, this is my level. I want to, and then I go.
I've come down a couple of.
Hello, Alex. Hi, it's Van Gene here.
I did say to you about half an hour ago. It's been a while since I've been on. I probably need a proper audio check.
Yeah, no,
and you were like, no, we'll be on in 10 minutes. 12 minutes later, you still weren't on.
Does anyone believe that I was like, nah, we'll just wing it? No, I got absorbed in the show notes. But hey,
I know I was taking the mick out of you while you were writing them.
My additions were that enthralling, were they?
I saw Alex typing in the shared Google Doc, and I was like, oh my God, Alex has figured out how to link to the Google Doc.
I know.
Well, the whole reason is it's been so long since I've done a show, and when I was watching the Grand Prix last week, I realised I'd forgotten how to watch a Grand Prix.
Yeah.
To actually pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh,
you
God.
Can't just let it drift away.
I actually wrote notes in my phone while this race was going on.
Yeah. You can't just let it drift. You can't just let it drift by. And like sometimes I would love to just sit and absorb a race for the atmosphere or whatever. But we're in the timing sheets and we're like, oh, how are Hamilton's lap times compared to Leclerc? How's Tsunoda holding? Yeah. How's Russell's tire drop off doing? All that kind of thing. And so. In a way, it's like, oh, I wish I could just kind of melt into it and have it on in the pub or something. But also, I really enjoy getting into the details and knowing when people are going to argue. So, like, knowing when details are going to come up that people are going to argue with. And so, like, the big ones, actually, obviously the team orders thing, but the Sainz versus Behrman one, I think is going to be a big argument. Ocon versus Stroll, I think, is going to be quite a big one.
Already has been.
I think that's going to be quite good. So we've got like loads of stuff like that. But I nearly had my birthday balloon in the background because it's birthday and no one said happy birthday.
I have a question for you. You had a plan
34.
to maybe make a long drive after watching the race. Are you kind of glad you didn't?
What was I going to do?
You were thinking about driving out for a day.
To Monza?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, okay. So what happened? Thanks for that segue. This is like a talk show
You're
thing,
welcome.
isn't it? You're like a talk show host going like, oh, does anything interesting happen to you on your birthday? So we discussed it all beforehand, you know. So I was going to go, right, I'm going to just take the caravan out to Monza, go and camp near Milan and go in. Or even actually flights weren't that expensive. Someone did offer me tickets for the Friday and Saturday. I decided not to, but also I could not find where. They either emailed me or DM'd me or something, and it just vanished. And so for a day where I was trying to find it, I've been looking around. So thank you to that person who offered me their and their daughter's tickets because they could only get there on the Sunday. But I couldn't find it. And then I decided, do I really get that as a birthday treat for me? Like 600-700 quid I'm going to spend to go and watch those 2 days. Dad guilt kicked in, and instead, because we got into table tennis so much on holiday, I ordered a table tennis table instead because we can all enjoy that. And then it arrived and it was rubbish and I've had to send it back. So it's going back.
Your family does birthdays wrong.
No one ever cares about my birthday. Although
the picture you sent of your kids' cards was hilarious.
Oh my God. So my son, he never sends an appropriate card. His card was get well soon. In relation to my age, get well soon, and what did my daughter say? Sorry for telling you you're old. Brackets. I thought you knew. That was
even funnier. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, EJ. It was no, Stuart. It is tax deductible. But anyway, instead we did that, and yesterday we had quite a heavy day. We went in for midday. Went in for lunch into town, and just just a little cafe place. Had a couple of beers. Watched qualifying. We played mini golf in the sun, and then I just passed out after qualifying. Woke up an hour later, did my qualifying review, which I hope people liked because over a dozen people said that they sort of wouldn't mind if I did a qualifying review.
Your qualifying review made me angry on my run this morning.
Yay! Which bit did you disagree with?
Because you slagged off chicanes again and you're wrong and you were on your own and no one was there to tell you were wrong.
That is
you're not allowed to podcast on your own anymore.
No. So the spanners only ones, they're non-canon. They're not. It's as if they didn't happen.
I don't understand what that means.
Everyone
talks about canon. I never understand.
It's not canonical. It's not part of the story. So future episodes aren't bound to the spanners.
The official
only.
history that you have to stick to when you make the 17th iteration of your superhero movie.
Yeah, and I actually wasn't thinking about it that way, which is that no one can correct me. Like no spanners should have that level of unanswered to power. Actually,
Spanners gets yes men when he's on his own.
The only way I can get an army of yes men is to just screw it. I'm just going to do Mistake Apex by myself. That is good. No, that's true. No one can disagree. And not too many people can just hit record and just do an episode like that, half an hour. That was one take, by the way. That was all one take. But that's just because I've done my 10,000 hours of radio and I'm a gobshite. But yeah. So
I wasn't going to say anything, but sure.
So it means I have that ability. Hey guys, on the live stream, are they sounding sort of roughly equal levels? I'm having to play with the fader quite a bit, but because your level is all over the place, Alex. We need a live compressor for you.
What a shocker!
Okay. Yeah, we need
after nearly 10 years. I don't know why you're surprised.
No, but literally mid-sentence, I'm riding the fader mid-sentence. Because
do you know what's funny? Actually, since I've been doing all my videos and stuff, and I know because I tail off at the end of my sentences.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
And I can see that in the little wave graph when I'm editing my videos. I'm like,
it would help if you moved the mic slightly to the side a little bit. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You have a big dynamic range, and you sense that in real life because you're such a character and you're such a lovely person to have on a night out, and you're a conversationalist. But yeah, you're not. You're never going to record an audio book.
It's all right. I mess around with my audio in my videos.
Okay.
It's a lot of work, though.
It is a lot of work.
It's part of the reason it takes so long.
It will be softened if you just move your mic somehow exactly to the side. So you're talking about this. If it was there, that will soften the dynamic range just
like
a little.
there.
Yeah, exactly. And we get to see that. Who was that guy in that boy band in blue that you look like? Come on. All right.
I'm trying to remember any of their names. I know who Blue are.
Yeah, hang on. Boy band.
I feel like I want
Blue.
a smash cut of every one of these where Spanners fixes somebody's intro.
Anthony Costa.
No, not Anthony Costa.
Yeah, you look
No,
like
the
Anthony
other one,
Costa.
the more handsome one.
You look like Anthony Costa. Hang on.
No, that's racist because you think because you pretend that
Oh my
I'm Greek.
I think it's I think it's the biggest compliment of your life. I think I can move this web page over so that everyone can see it. I think.
People don't need to see my face anyway. They know what I look like. Everybody knows I am now not overweight. So.
I can't make it appear in the thing. Yeah, you're not currently not overweight.
No, I'm
I
not.
can't make it appear.
Have you ever been overweight?
Yeah,
Me?
Matt was super fat.
Oh yeah, I got
Yeah.
No, I'm more Duncan James than Anthony Costa.
Oh, is that what it is? Hang on, let's have a look. Is that what you think?
He's the hot one.
No. Oh, honey, no. No, definitely.
Hilariously, there was a family friend who looked like Lee, to the point where he was on a reality show, where he basically was trying to pretend that he was Lee, and he got really uncomfortable, didn't like doing it, and he made them not show the show.
Stuart just said, "Wow, you've got Anthony Costa on the show." Yeah, and Maria says, "Tell me why." That's
Ain't nothing but that's
not
Backstreet
Blue.
Boys.
That's Backstreet Boys. That's weird. Come on, Maria. All right, cool.
all boy bands are the same.
I would quite like to do an F1
All
podcast.
rise.
Oh, let's do karaoke. Missed Apex karaoke. That's at the next party.
Hell yes. Boom, shake the room. That's my karaoke.
Oh
track.
no, mine is I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky. That one. Happy,
No, but
I
then
could
your
be
wife will
purple,
turn
I
up
could
and
be
just
anything
blow us
you
all out the water.
Oh, right, okay. Now I have to talk about that. Don't ever marry a really good singer. Like, don't marry a professional singer if you like singing in the car or singing in the shower. So basically, I'd sing in the shower and I think, oh, that's great. She would take those songs and put them in playlists for like party nights and stuff and wedding gigs. And so all the songs I like, I'm now, oh, she's much better at them than I am, obviously. But the worst thing is you start singing a song and she'll harmonize along with it. And you go, oh, stop it. And now there's two of them.
Oh dear.
Let's do that car. Let's get that car spinning. Look at you, Alex, in your real race suit that you own. You look skinny in that race suit picture.
My race suit got burnt on the big, powerful car I drove the other week.
Oh, no, mate. You've had that race suit for so long. And you've
Since
worn
2011.
it. And you've worn it whether it fits or not. The race suit I got from the patrons when I was 40, right? It didn't fit at the time at all. And I've struggled with it. It fit for the first time this year. It fits.
You've worked very hard.
I've binged
You
tennis.
deserve this.
I've binged tennis. I haven't changed any of my other habits. It's just been tennis. I deserve nothing. Right, here we go. Oh, shall I record it? I'll record it as well. Yeah, I'll record it.
Might be useful.
Oh my god, you got really loud. Just right, whatever. I'll just use my extreme producer skill to ride that fader. Welcome to Missed Apex Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Reddy, but my friends call me Spanners. So, let's be friends. This is our Italian Grand Prix race review, which has felt like the bottle episode of a sitcom where everyone's stuck in a lift. There were some jokes, there were some arguments, but overall, it didn't really move the plot forward. But it did have some great racing, some classic overtakes, and it wouldn't be an episode of F1 2025 without some sketchy, well-intentioned team orders from McLaren tripping over themselves to be super duper nice. So coming up, we'll discuss, should McLaren have ordered a swap? How did Verstappen get a literal 8-wheeled tractor up to P1 in Monza? Did Ferrari complete Monza successfully? And we'll play steward in a few rounds of Whose Fault Is This? We're experimenting with splitting the show into some more formal segments this week. You won't notice anything on the audio. However, video episodes will be uploaded in those smaller segments. And if you want to watch the full stream, we'll put those links in the show notes as well. So you've got a lot of choice about how to consume Missed Apex Podcast. We are an independent podcast produced in the podcasting shed with the kind support of our patrons and partners. We aim to bring you a race review before your Monday morning commute. We might be wrong, but we're first. I'm joined in the shed by Matt Trumpets. Hello, Matt.
What's a guy got to do to get a safety car in this town?
Yeah, I was torn because like safety car would have ruined the interesting strategy that was unveiling. So I was sort of wishing for there not to be one. And then the strategy wasn't that interesting at all. And I was like, oh.
It was all a one-stop, baby.
Yeah, and it was always going to be as well. It was always doomed to be a one-stop. But or maybe there'll be a semi-interesting one-stop if, I don't know, there's a bit more wear. Like when the blisters started appearing on Verstappen's car, you go, oh, is that a thing? And it wasn't. Like, it's fine. Apparently, you can. Those wheels looked awful. And then Mike Caulfield was in our Patreon Discord, and he was like, yeah, but it's the right-hand tyre, and it's not doing anything.
Yeah. It's pretty unimportant in left and right-hand turns.
Oh, speaking of pretty unimportant, we've got Alex Geensy Van Gene. Hello, Alex. Yay.
Oh, God. Hello, Spanners. What a way to welcome me back after all of this time. I've taken my time away from repairing go-karts and making videos to come and say hello. Yeah, good. And I love that we disagree. There's already some fights in our WhatsApp chat, especially with some of the whose faults is it. I think the Sainz versus Behrman one, I find myself on the wrong side of popular opinion. The Ocon versus Stroll one is causing some arguments as well. And definitely the team orders is causing some fracas. So we are going to get to Verstappen. Obviously, Verstappen has had a great weekend, somewhat anonymously out in the distance. And I think himself and Mekis have a lot to be proud of with how they approached the weekend. However, clearly, the big ticket item is McLaren. So controversy this week with the McLaren team orders. They have, I think, tried very hard to do the right thing. They've tried very hard to be fair, but towards the end of the race, where both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri had extended their stints on the medium tyres, decided that they would go on to the soft tyres, perhaps to have a final push and do something different, maybe a little bit of goal hanging for the safety car as a team there as well. And that's where the issue started for McLaren, because Lando Norris kind of offered, are you sure you want me to pit? And you sure you don't want Piastri to have the advantage of pitting first to make sure he's okay at the back? Oh, well, that's very lovely, Lando, said McLaren. We might do that. Hang on a minute, said Norris. What if I get undercut? And they said, no, we will never let you get undercut. Hell will freeze up. We will paint our car the red and silver livery that is actually good before we let an undercut happen. And then sure enough, an undercut happened and they were faced with the decision of whether or not to do team orders. And they did. They told Piastri to let Lando Norris by. I think my main opinion, the one thing I would like to knock on the head, because I've seen loads of people tweet this, including massive accounts and really high profile people, is saying that the reason they did the swap was because Lando Norris had a slow stop. So basically, they were making up for the unfairness of the slow stop. And I just don't believe that's the case. I think McLaren think that the fact that Piastri got the advantageous undercut unnaturally from second place is at least a very significant factor in why those places are swapped. And not saying right or wrong at this point, but that's why they made that decision, not to make up for a slow pit stop. So I think I'll go to Alex Van Gien and say, Alex, should they have made that swap? Should they have issued team orders to let Piastri know that he should let Norris past? Yeah, I think it was the right decision. I think. Boo. This is the thing: is on one of these controversial things. I think we're all going to agree on this, which is it was a case of right. Lando's like, okay, let's protect Oscar from behind. As long as I come out in front, it doesn't matter, and it's exactly where it should be. And that's not what happened because the guy basically forgot to finish putting the rest of the nut on. He pulled his thing away. His gun was flashing green and red. He basically got a slap over the head from one of the other pit crew members and had to actually go and put it back on and then let him away. And it was like a 5.5 second pit stop. And by that point, Piastri got back past. The whole point was, don't let him undercut me. And they let him undercut him. So they got it going on.
Matt, and apologies to the video viewers who just saw the top of Alex's head for that because I'm using a new camera system. But Matt.
It's fun times. And I feel like Lando's fundamental mistake here was not protecting against the undercut, which he was very careful to ask about. But he also didn't say, well, what if you guys mess up my pit stop and I come out behind him anyway? And that's what happened here. As Alex rightly notes, in the replay, you can see the wheel gun flashing red and green, and then the guy standing next to him who manages the tires smacks him in the head, and he's like, "Oh, right, yes, I should have looked at that after I was done to make sure it
That was
worked
bad,
properly."
Matt. That looked like a bad mistake. So basically, I don't know how these systems work, but I'm assuming that the wheel gun is basically a torque wrench. So when a certain level of torque, of grip has been turned, it stops turning. So you're not going to overturn you're not going to over tighten the nut. But when it reaches that torque setting, the gun goes green. Yeah?
Correct. When it feels, when its sensor, however they've programmed it, recognizes the correct torque and the wheel nut is properly seated, when you pull it off, it just goes solid green. And I think the issue here is that their tools are too good. So this is probably like a 1 out of 5,000 events, considering all the practice they do. And at a certain point, with the adrenaline, you just forget that, oh yeah, it can go wrong, and I do need to check when I'm done just in case.
Yeah, so it did look like a genuine mistake from Derek on the front left, that he just did it, thought, yep, we're done, and he was just waiting for, that was his last thing of the day, and like had a little bit of an eye on packing up. He's going to feel devastated, isn't he, I think, going back. But thank goodness the guy on to his left was hitting him on the shoulder saying, hey, all of that happened in 5.9 seconds. It's still an incredibly short amount of time.
Yeah, and two and a half of those seconds was a normal pit stop time. So it wasn't, it seems big in F1 terms, but it wasn't really, we've seen much worse. Oh. And front left, super susceptible to heat soak, which makes it more likely that the wheel nut will have an issue. And they went very late into the race without changing it. Also potentially an issue there.
So weren't there quite a few pit issues today? There's quite a few slow, sticky stops today, which was again blamed on the heat. So I think you got a point there, Matt.
Every now and then, I am a broken clock. This is true. But to get back to it, if anything, they pitted Piastri first just to make sure Leclerc wasn't an issue, which he wasn't an issue, but whatever. But you do give up the undercut. Now, thankfully for them, and they said this on the radio, like, no, you're nowhere near an undercut, because the undercut at Monza is fairly weak compared to a lot of other tracks. And that's because it's a very low degradation track. In fact, after the race, Albon mentioned the fact that the fuel effect, which is basically the car going faster because it's getting lighter, was actually greater than the amount of tire degradation they were seeing during the race. So it shouldn't have been an issue for Lando in the slightest, minus the problem with the left front wheel. That said, I know. I'll let you get in. I'll let you get a word in just a second.
No, the hand up was like, I want to come in next. I wasn't saying stop.
Oh, sorry. I would agree with it, because it's fair play to both drivers. If you have a slow stop and you lose a position, as long as both drivers get treated equally, that's potentially a fair rule. And last thing is stakes. I mean, come on, 3 points. If you're Piastri, are you really going to make a big fuss about it? No.
Well,
no,
hang on, Alex. I would if it was the Abu Dhabi. If it was the final round, I certainly would.
I don't think we could tell whether he felt any differently, because he has the exact same demeanor when he won the race versus how he felt after this race. The man has no emotions, and I don't understand him at all.
We've set up a special email just for Australians to send Geensy emails.
Oh, I was thinking his home address would be more appropriate.
Oh, you could do that too. Yeah, you probably know what it is.
I mean, they're far away, but there's enough of them working in bars that they can definitely gather a mob together, I'd imagine. Look, as being on the Norris side of this fight nominally, when it happened, I was like, no, car. It had to be after the engine blow up. Then, the fact that he's beating Piastri comfortably in this race, but Verstappen chooses this race to be ahead so that it's 3 points instead of 7. Then we're going to get the dodgy pit stop. And he came out, right? He came out and I thought, well, that's a 6-point turnaround. And that is isn't that unlucky? My first call was, why on earth were you offering? Why on earth did you suggest? They told you to pit. They said, it's time to pit. And you said, hey, let's just make sure Piastri's okay. What? So what planet is that on? You don't see that anywhere. That's far, far, far too sporting. And then my second thought was, please don't make them swap positions. Please don't make them swap positions because this is going to be awful. And when they said swap positions, I was like, oh no. You know when you're like biting your fist because you're like, oh, that is definitely the fairest way to go. But that's as if one of your kids has broken a toy, so you break the other kid's toy to make it fair. But yeah, I didn't like that they made the call. I actually agree with it, and I can go into details why, but I don't like that they put themselves in that situation and then the fact that they had to undo it. Sorry, Alex, go on.
McLaren are trying too hard, and by McLaren I include the drivers in this, are trying too hard to be too nice to each other about absolutely everything. Yeah. I mean, Crofty kept on saying that he'd been talking to Oscar, and Oscar had said, I'll do anything the team asked me to do. If they asked me to get out of the way, if they asked me to do whatever, I will do as I'm told. Like the reason he gave Lando a tow in qualifying, because he was asked to do it because Lando had an issue and they had to get Lando into Q3. It's weird because I'm in this weird position where McLaren have always been my favourite team. I used to really like Lando, but I've kind of gone off him a bit, and I've never been that bothered about Oscar. So my favourite team is winning, but I'm not excited about it because I don't really feel anything particularly passionate about either driver, apart from I get annoyed at Lando because he keeps messing it up.
So this should have been the perfect opportunity for me as a pundit to go, hey, look, like you, I don't really have a dog in this fight. In fact, I was reasonably cool on Norris, wasn't I? Especially in our private chats. I've always been, in fact, didn't I say to you for years, like, I think he's going to get found out at some point. I said that for years, like during the Ricciardo partnership as well, and Sainz. I did, Alex. No, I did.
You did, but I think it's more the case of he was a used up toy. Because when he came into F1, he was the loud, jokey, laughy, we could do viral stuff with Lando. And I think he got fed up with it.
Yeah.
And then he went off for some reason at Lewis, sort of saying, you know, he's got the best car. He's only got to beat his teammate. Yeah, Lando. All you got to do is beat your teammate in the best car.
I think that might have influenced why I didn't like him, actually, to be fair, thinking back on it. But I will say that, you know, because obviously no stake with Piastri, not particularly a McLaren fan, more of a Williams fan than anything else. But because I've nominally taken the side of Norris in the fight, oh my God, now I'm constantly, oh, you're a Norris simp, you're a British bias. Or I'm like, I'm playing for the podcast. But anyway, stand by it, whatever, Matt.
Well, I don't want to say I've just heard this from an unnamed source, but rumors are that Zach said to them, we've finally ditched the conspiracy in favor of Norris theories. Don't you dare let a conspiracy in favor of Piastri theory happen. That was a joke for people at home who have a very literal sense of words.
Well, I'm going to assume that it landed and carry on as if it did. So the big argument that people have got is, right, well, if Piastri has a bad pit stop now, are they going to swap the positions to make up for it? I do think that McLaren are viewing this as the same as Hungary. So they said over the radio, it's the Hungary situation. And so personally, I know, Matt, we were doing some maths. You don't think the undercut was worth much. Most people that I've talked to, apart from you, have said that we're talking about 2 seconds. And we definitely had Verstappen on his undercut with the hard tyre was making up 1.5. So I don't think there's zero, but the point I'm really driving at here, Matt, is it's hard to work out if Norris had pitted first and still got the dodgy pit stop somehow. If he'd have pitted first, would he have had enough of a lead from the undercut and the existing lead he had to absorb that bad pit stop? And I think McLaren would say, yes, he did.
I am delighted to be able to answer that question because in order to calculate my undercut, and this is specific to the McLarens, I actually looked at the entry and exit timings for both Piastri and Norris. And I can say that when he first popped back up on GPS, Norris was about 0.9 of a second behind. And by time the pit out indicator disappeared and he was through the first chicane, he was about 1.6, 1.8 seconds behind. The values I calculated, because the GPS is pretty approximate and not perfect, was somewhere between 1.2 and 1.5 seconds. Bearing in mind that Norris pitted at the end of the lap, Piastri came out. So he didn't really have a lot of time. Plus, he had to get his tires up to temperature. So it wasn't the same kind of advantage that you would often see from an undercut.
But yeah, so you'd have to take it in the whole rather than saying, well, what did he specifically gain over this sector? Because you couldn't get a like for like. Now, I get it's really hard to tease it out, but I find it hard to believe it's zero when you had 40-year-old hards versus brand new softs. There had to be some undercut in there somewhere. And by the way, Uncle Steve, Australian, right? In it. Says, they won't ask Lando to swap for Oscar. They literally did. It already happened. It's already happened. Of course, they've shown that they would. Even when Norris was fighting for a championship, they've shown that they would. Okay, there is another perspective on this, which is from like a Norris perspective. You're comfortably ahead. You say, "Should we do the nice thing for my teammate?" They say yes, and it definitely won't bite you in the ass, and then it does because you get a terrible pit stop. And then they ask you to. They say, "Okay, well, we're going to give you that place back." I mean, everything's only been reset to kind of how it was before they decided to do the, hey, let's try and be fair and lovely to everyone, Matt.
Well, yeah. And how often do we hear, let him pass. If he doesn't pass the car ahead, you can, we'll give you that place back before the finish. This is not that unusual of a thing. And honestly, except for the very few laps left, that would have eventually been Lando has more pace than you. So just let him through because he really did have more pace than Piastri.
Exactly, Matt. It's not like Oscar was quicker than Lando, really at all this weekend. He was well out of reach before the pit stops. That's the whole reason Lando was so chill about letting Oscar pit first, was because he had such a lead, because he had Oscar in his pocket. I actually think if they hadn't let him past, Lando was close enough that Lando probably would have had a go at him. And actually, it could have ended up worse for both of them if they'd actually let them fight. And then when Oscar had the slipstream to Lando, when he was told that he could fight, by the way, he was never in Lando's DRS at all for the whole race. This whole situation put him in his DRS, and then he couldn't get him anyway. So to say it's not fair that they switched it back is wrong, because it actually was the fair thing to switch it back to resume things where they were.
The more I think about it, though, whereas I think it was fine and it was correct because it was a team decision, I just wish they hadn't. I just wish they hadn't.
Now, there, I agree with you. I'm certain Liberty is like, are you really sure you need to do that? Because, we'd get so much more fan engagement because people are going to be so angry about it.
Probably because we also would have ended up with a Ferrari on the podium, because those two would have likely have smashed each other off.
That would have been two, right? So two Ferraris on the podium with Max winning if they were out.
Well, no, it would have been George. It would have been Lando, George and Leclerc.
Yeah, George and Leclerc. I think it's a little bit of a stretch to say that that Norris would have breezed past Piastri because they didn't have a tyre delta, and two equal cars, both on new tyres, on low fuel. I think it might have happened, but you certainly can't assume it. I think it is fair to point out, though, that this is a race where Lando Norris was comfortably ahead, and it was quite alarming the rate at which Piastri dropped back.
Don't forget, he missed all of free practice one, and I think that kind of put him on the back foot with the car for the whole weekend. Plus, I think this is a track that tends to favor Norris's driving style. And just on a tire-related note, if you're asking why did they wait so long to pit anyway, that's kind of an admission they were never going to catch Max. This is not their track. This is a bogey track for them. And I think McLaren realized pretty early on that it was Oscar and Lando racing. And that might have also played into the decision to just be slightly more fair about it.
They did absolutely nothing to consider attacking Max. They were like, he's gone. We stand no chance. Max has built himself up a safety car pit window by the time it came round to pitting, and Max was clean and gone. They were only focusing on each other. The fact that Max was leading the race was irrelevant.
But it's not irrelevant to our audience, which is why we go into our next segment about the winner of the race. So, Max Verstappen wins the Italian Grand Prix. I feel like in some small way to spite me, because I made a really big deal last week of going, woe is me, there's no way that Norris can catch up now. 34 points seems relatively catchable, but McLaren will definitely get a 1-2 in every single race between now and Abu Dhabi. And I was immediately wrong. If you're going to be wrong as a professional, unprofessional pundit, then be wrong immediately. And it's a set of circumstances which I think we were fair to say, okay, that's the general rule of thumb. But Stuffy in the preview did a really good analysis of why he thought McLaren wouldn't be dominant at Monza, and that perhaps it wouldn't lend itself as well to the McLaren strengths in the same way as it did in Canada. And that proved to be the case. And Matt, there was also an interesting kind of technical wrinkle with Verstappen making a big decision with his rear wing before Saturday. But firstly, why were McLaren slow here, and what did Max do to make the difference?
Fundamentally, McLaren, the DNA of their car is they have really good downforce. They have excellent rear tire usage. It's an extremely important part of their package. And so the first thing to consider is we're on a track where there's almost no degradation. So immediately that big advantage is neutralized.
And that is why sort of Max could sort of take a bit of a risk with a lower wing, I guess. The low deg is really key in that.
It absolutely is. You're not really worried about overheating the tire so much. And on top of it, even if McLaren went with their lowest downforce package, it would still be significantly more draggy.
Really?
Than the Red Bull package, whose ultimate DNA is their biggest advantage is in a straight line and high-speed corners. And there's not a lot of low-speed corners. There's the one chicane, turn 1 and 2. And that's like really the only low speed area of the whole track. So it very much fell into Red Bull's natural strengths. They also brought, I believe, a floor update. I'm not sure if they ran it or not, in addition to the special wings. So it was always going to be a stretch for McLaren to have dominance. They could still win, but if you looked at how they went about qualifying, you would see that they went for qualifying pace and defending because they were very fast in the turns, but they weren't really super duper fast down the straights. And ultimately, either they got a little bit wrong or it was just not a solvable problem given how the car is constructed.
Everyone else is fast on the straights. We got to be fast in the turns.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite, isn't it? He goes,
anyway,
they have a shot beaten in the corners, so we have to beat them in the straights.
The thing here was where McLaren, it's 120, 140 mile an hour corners. That's where the big strength of the McLaren is. And that's what the majority of the season is fast corners.
Yeah, like Saudi Arabia, you can really see them disappear.
Correct. But with this, it's all about big stops and traction. And it's why you keep seeing, I mean, not today actually, but you keep seeing them getting mugged off the start line because I don't think they've got the best traction off the line. So when you've got to have lots of big starts coming out of chicanes,
rocket launches,
that's where they're losing out on the speed and they can't use the key strengths of their car.
Now, another thing you brought up was Max's rear wing. And I just want to make the point because I heard a post-race interview with Alex Albon, trust me, it relates, saying that they have a rear wing, I forget what they called it, but their low downforce rear wing makes the car drive beautifully. And if you think about Max's biggest complaints, what is it? I've got no front end. The car won't turn in. Well, what do you think happens when you take 3/4 of the downforce off of the rear wing? Well, that shifts the balance forward, and suddenly it makes the car a lot more drivable. Listen to him. He barely complained about the car at all during the race. He was happy. And it's
happiest Max we've seen in a long time.
Well, yeah, as happy as he's ever going to be, let's say. But it was definitely a car that was much more suited to the way he likes to drive. The bad news for him is outside Baku and maybe Vegas, I don't see them using that rear wing anywhere else. So it may be, we may be returning to the norm once we get to other races.
Well, Leclerc was talking about races where Ferrari might have a chance. And I think by Ferrari might have a chance, he means McLaren not dominant. And so the ones he cited were Baku, Vegas, did he mention somewhere? And Singapore. So he said of the 8 remaining rounds, he said there was 3 there, and actually that's quite a lot. That's quite significant in the will McLaren finish 1-2 in every race. So yeah, Leclerc's looking at those to maybe not suit McLaren as much, and I think by implication that's where that other cars like Red Bull can kind of pull a Verstappen like they did this weekend.
Yeah, and that is great news for us because it means we really have genuine racing to look forward, including for the win and not just between two drivers on the same team. The other thing that struck me, I don't know if this struck you too, but Max didn't seem to be getting the benefit of that turn one call at all. Now, we did criticize Lando for being a bit cautious. I think he listened to our show because he seemed very spicy on that first lap and he got away with it. And he even admitted to it afterwards.
Yeah, that was quite an aggressive move. I think that we can talk about that without it falling into our whose fault is it section. But we've got a grumpy comment in the Patreon Discord. You can join them there in our live chat by going to patreon.com/missedapex. Sean sarcastically says, so in conclusion, Max drove a car that suited him and it's not actually a miracle drive. No, it's a really fantastic drive. I started this by saying, hey, look, figuring out that you can have a rear wing that suits your style and also will have an advantage due to the low degradation is genius. Driving the car in Formula One isn't all about just, I turned the steering wheel real good. If you make a genius call like that, I'm absolutely attributing that to the majority of his success over the weekend. Alex?
The setup direction, that change that they made between Friday and Saturday, or Saturday practice and Saturday qualifying, was entirely Max's decision, and it was completely adverse to what the team wanted to do, and it was what Max decided they wanted to do, and it brought the car alive.
Yeah.
So listen, I've had my rants on this show about Max for many, many years, but I think he has been absolutely superb this year, and he was in a class of one today, and he literally did exactly what he needed to do and performed admirably and was just absolutely phenomenal. And it hurts to say it, but yeah, he is, at the moment in F1, he is the best driver by a clear margin at the moment.
Can I just say, I do say lots of really good things about Max, and I think our biggest TikTok that we got was like 500,000, half a million, was critical about Max, and because there's loads of comments. It might have been one of the 20 times he's punted someone, because he does do that though. He does do that though. All right, and then I did a tweet, for example, earlier where I'm like, he maximizes his results and responds really well to not having a winning car last week, and it was like four views on TikTok. So sometimes that's just what the algorithm dishes out to you. But yeah, I think it was a very aggressive drive at the start. Obviously, at the start, we didn't know the balance of power between those two cars. So we didn't know. I don't think it was reasonable for anyone to predict that they would have blistering race pace and be a good front-running car there. It was still then essential for him to get past the McLaren. He might not have realised that he had that much of a pace advantage today. And so when we look at the onboards, I think it would be fair to kind of go, well, it looks like they've prioritised qualifying there for one lap pace. They've got this amazing feature now on the telly where you can be on board with one driver and you can see the ghost car of the car they're competing against. What an incredible feature. It's amazing. You could see exactly where the advantage was. And actually, out of the traction zones, over qualifying pace, they did seem to be level. So they'd come out of a corner and they would be together for parts of it. And then that Red Bull would disappear. So from turn one down to turn 2 is Curva Grande to the right. So the chicane 3 and 4. Down to that curve, you see Verstappen disappear. And then as you get to the corner, you see that the McLaren's having to do a lot less to turn into that corner, and it catches up. And the same through the Lesmos 1, Lesmos 2. I'm always very careful how I say that.
Lesmos 1 and 2.
Yeah. And then into, hang on, what's the fight? Is it Tamburello?
Ascari.
So Tamburello's the first.
Ascari chicane.
Tamburello's a different track, mate.
Tamburello's Imola.
It's all Italy, isn't it? It's all Italy. It's Italy.
It is Italian.
Matt put a track map in the notes for me on this one, but because I normally ask for a track map, but I don't need a track map for this.
Okay.
It's one of my favourite tracks in the world.
So you've got down the main straight, and then you've got Crapio Chicano, turn 1 and 2.
Great chicane.
You've got Curva Grande.
Chicane 2.
What's that?
Lesmo 1.
What's chicane 2 called?
6, 7.
What's chicane 2 called?
4, 5.
Is that it hasn't got a name?
It has got
Varianti.
a name.
No, it's not.
Retifilio.
There you go.
Retifilio.
There you go. Then you've got the Lesmos, and then you've got
Ascari,
yeah. So in Ascari, you could really see that the left turn looked like barely a turn for the McLaren. And so you could see the huge difference. But then down the main straight, Verstappen's just gone. So yeah, I mean, I've lost my point now because I'm just trying to remember all the corner names for Italian tracks.
The point is there's not enough corners for McLaren to make up the lap time they lose on the straights to Verstappen. That's really what it is. They couldn't bring a compromise to this track that would have put them equal on lap time. But I think the difference, the difference is I don't think Red Bull predicted how well these tires would hold up because these are a new construction. They had graining issues last year. I think Max was correctly driving as if I need to be in front because I think with my superior straight line speed, I'm pretty sure I can defend against the McLarens.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to suffer, relatively speaking, with my tires a bit near the end of the stint, near the lap we need to get to for me to win this race. And it turned out just not to be true at all.
Do you know when I saw the wing difference between the McLaren and the Red Bull, I was like exactly what you just said, which was he'll qualify on pole, but then about 5 laps before the McLaren, he'll start to struggle with his tyres. They'll catch up, and that's when the change will happen. If you'd have told Red Bull that they were going to finish this race 19 seconds in the lead, they'd have laughed you out of the circuit.
Yeah.
You know, I think they thought they might have had a fight all the way through and maybe just lost out or maybe just won. There was no way anyone thought going into this race that there was going to be a Red Bull dominating it.
Yeah, but they did, and it was down to them. No, it was not a fluke. It was not a circumstance of the track. It was opportunity that they grabbed, and in no small part down to Max Verstappen's engineering and setup, brain and decisions. So I want to talk about the turn 1 fighting, or even leading up to turn 1 between Verstappen and Norris. But I think that leads us into a good excuse to do a dedicated section for whose fault is it?
Whose fault is it?
Here on Missed Apex Podcast, we never assign anything to a racing incident. Someone must always be to blame. And doing that is the best way, I think, to explore the racing rules and how we actually feel about these incidents. The one answer I won't accept is, oh, it's just a racing incident. It was no one's fault. Let's be all nice. Let's be all Ned Flandery, like McLaren's strategy team trying to be all nice and fair. Because we all know where that leads, to threatening people that they're going to run them down with their race car. So we're going to play Whose Fault Is It? And I think the first racing incident to talk about is McLaren versus Red Bull. Verstappen versus Norris going into that first turn onto the grass. My favourite part was the interviewer on the podium asking Norris if he kept his foot flat over the grass. And I think there was a moment Norris considered lying, but he admitted with his hand gesture that he lifted just a little bit, which is kind of wise because we also saw how Barcelona 2016 worked out. Then into the first corner, he's side by side with Max Verstappen. Max ends up going into the escape road. So, Alex, I'll ask you, whose fault was all of that?
I don't think anything really happened, but actually it's Lando's fault. But so first of all,
Boo.
Lando nailed the start. He's not on pole, so of course he nails the start when it actually is less important. And then drove himself onto the grass. Max actually, I was watching this replay before, Max actually moved away from him a little bit as it got to the grass. He has no obligation to let Lando back onto the circuit. Lando just drove onto the grass and then decided to blame Max for it. And when Lando went onto the grass, Max saw it happen and moved even further away because you never know what happens when a car hits the grass. Spain 2016. And then as they dove into the first chicane, Lando definitely ran Max off the circuit because he also went off the circuit.
No, he didn't.
He did. He goes over the curb onto the first part of the chicane. So Lando actually went off the circuit. So I actually don't think Max should have given the place back. I'm glad he did because it was more fun for about 10 minutes. But yeah, that was Lando definitely did a Max Verstappen, but Max getting a taste of his own medicine. So all's fair that ends fair.
Well, I'm having to rewatch this. I don't remember Norris going off, but go on, Matt.
I'll give you a little cover here because I'm going to do something I almost never do. And broadly speaking, I'm going to agree with Alex here. I saw the replay after the race. Now, I didn't go back and watch the onboards. I didn't have an overhead shot. But if you just look at the entry to turn 1, There's no way Norris was following any kind of the quote unquote guidelines that have been put up for the drivers. He fully sat down, studied film. He studied film and he said, you know what? If I'm remotely alongside Max, I'm going to drive straight to the end of the first turn and then I'm going to turn right. And that's just going to be a him problem.
I'm glad we're in agreement with the first part with the grass, though, because it was, definitely a case of Verstappen only ever drove into parts of the track that didn't have Lando Norris in them. So it feels a bit weird to go, well, if you wanted to prove that you were forced off, you've got to let him hit you. But you kind of do have to do that, don't you? Oh, I don't think he was all the way off. I'm watching that. I'm going to need some.
Oh, no, he wasn't all the way off, but 2 wheels went over the. He didn't make the corner. Make the corner.
No. If you have 2 wheels on the track, you made the corner.
He didn't make the corner. He
made the corner.
As I said this multiple times before, the racing rules that the FIA, the stewards have set are rubbish. And I don't agree with them in the slightest. And I set myself by my racing rules, which is that isn't allowed.
Chat, we need some screenshots.
And that was him playing the rules that the FIA have put into thing. But there was no way he was thinking, oh, I'm going to leave space for my mate on the outside. That was get in the dirt.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it later.
Okay, so I think Verstappen was alongside enough to be entitled to room. Looking at what I just saw, and I'm asking chat to do some screenshots. I think then Norris makes the corner because you've got wheels on the track. You make the corner. Had Verstappen held his ground and there'd been contact, that contact is then Norris's fault. However, again, Norris only ever drove into a space that had been vacated by Max Verstappen.
You're leaving out the best bit.
Yeah.
Norris called him an idiot on the radio afterwards.
That's your buddy. You can't call your buddy
No, you definitely can't call your mates idiots, can you, Spanners?
Oh my God. The amount of abuse I've had from guys I know on a kart track. You guys are, Kyle Power, nicest guy. But after I put him in the grass on the cool down lap, he pulled over. I thought, going to do fist bump. And he was just like, for like an hour going, you're filth. You're the worst person ever. I hope your mum gets a wart right on her face. Because you get angry, don't you?
The people you're worst to are your mates.
Yeah, because you can. No.
Me and my mates are horrible to each other 90% of the time. That's what lads do.
Stuart's pointing out that our chat is too old to do things like screenshots. But I think it's an interesting fundamental disagreement, you saying that he left the track. And I think that doesn't count. I think he stayed on the track there, but I think contact is his fault. And so if we're doing the rules, which we should do, Verstappen is entitled to space. He's entitled to hold his line, but didn't ultimately. And I wonder if part of the reason Verstappen was alongside was because he was carrying a little bit too much momentum into turn 1.
The only reason that Lando was there was because he launched it.
It was a launch.
It was the only reason it was there. It was a clear dive bomb. He was annoyed that Max didn't leave him enough room, which he did, and put him onto the grass. And it was a retaliatory move, is what that was. And he got away with it.
Go on, Matt, wrap it up because we've got some more whose faults is it is stuff.
At the end of the day, it was really nice to see Norris getting away with something for once.
It was nice seeing Norris not lose out on positions as well at the start of a Grand Prix, and even gaining on net eventually for a little while. Right, the other whose faults is it are basically, Alex, you put the comment of nobody is leaving anybody any room. So we've got Sainz versus Behrman, Tsunoda versus Lawson, and we've got Antonelli versus Albon and Stroll versus Ocon.
They all watched Monza 2019, where Leclerc repeatedly drove Lewis off the circuit and didn't get penalties for it, only a black and white flag, which is, as things go, it's a case of, woohoo, I did a bad thing and didn't get a penalty.
Yeah. Hang on.
That's how I won a race at karting a few weeks ago.
To interrupt slightly, though, didn't Hamilton in that same situation then get a penalty for closing the door a little bit on Piastri? And then he got a penalty for that, and he said, oh, yeah, no, fair enough, I closed the door. And that was more recent. Well, that must have been within the last 2.5 years.
I don't remember that one, but probably, but let's not go into how rules are played against Lewis Hamilton. Otherwise, we'll get
okay. But
otherwise we'll get edged into the ham fociness again.
But so Tsunoda versus Lawson is quite similar. It was at the same corner, and I just want people to be clear here that we're not talking about being alongside far enough to leave room. On a straight, you can't just drive someone off and hit them. And I think as unhappy as Tsunoda was, and as much as I would love it to be Lawson's fault, Tsunoda did just drive too far over, and they ended up interlocking wheels.
I think it's a classic. He's in the junior car. What is he doing there? Kind of moment.
Oh my God. Did he just do the equivalent of the Alex Albon, they raced me so hard? He was basically saying, why was Lawson racing me? They weren't lapping Lawson, but Lawson had not stopped yet. So Tsunoda's argument is, boy, he should just let me pass. It's like, mate, you're not Verstappen. You're not Verstappen yet. You don't get the team orders from Marco saying stay out of Tsunoda's way. So yeah, I think that was a very clumsy overtake or defense, whichever way round. I think it was an overtake, wasn't it, from Tsunoda. The next couple I missed. So Antonelli versus Albon, Stroll versus Ocon. In fact, I think the biggest one is Sainz versus Behrman. Let's do that one first. So right, I'm going to say my opinion, and I think it's going to irritate Alex, but I think Behrman came from too far back, didn't get enough alongside, left the nose in a disappearing wedge, and caused that crash.
Behrman was being overtaken. He wasn't coming from far back.
Well, no, hang on. So when we get into the braking zone, Sainz is clear. He's clear ahead. So
he wasn't clear ahead.
Yes, he was. Oh my God,
he wasn't. He wasn't. His wheels are still there, and Sainz has done that whole thing which I hate, which is you just turn in like somebody isn't there. Behrman can't just disappear. He hasn't got any obligation to just jump on the anchors, and he is entitled to stay where he is, and it is up to Sainz to find his way around. There was plenty of space for Sainz to get around that corner without hitting Behrman, and he decided not to. So in my opinion, if that happened to me in a kart race, and it frustrates the heck out of me, because it's a case of don't just turn in, because I'm still there, I still exist, I don't have to brake at this precise second, so you have to find your way around me without hitting me.
Oh my God, he was so nearly all the way past before they get into the braking zone. But
he wasn't, and they're into a braking zone. He can't just disappear. He's already braking at that point. He can't just disappear and brake more. He's still there, and you still have to behave like the person is there.
Matt?
I'm going to be honest. I think there's more than enough blame to go around for everyone. So before I explain why, I'm going to say, at the end of the day, this is 110% on Behrman, and it's because he's a rookie.
Yeah.
And he's not used to having to pay the price for doing ridiculous stunts like that, because it doesn't matter how many times I crash when I'm in F2 or F3. If that works once and I win a race, then that's worth the 5 times somebody rips my front wheel off and we're both out of the race, right? That's where he's coming from.
Alex, do you not think, though, that his driver coach or whatever will say, mate, that gap was never there? Like, that's inviting a crash.
I drag your eyes across the screen to the Discord.
I'm looking.
Where EJ has put in a picture of Sainz about to turn in with a Haas clearly halfway up the inside of it.
Go back, roll back.
I rest my case, Your Honor. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next one.
Front axle, rear axle. First of all, front axle, rear axle.
The car exists and it's there.
The one thing you don't want to do is have your front axle hanging in front of somebody's rear axle as you're going to a turn entry, because that's asking for exactly what we saw.
But that's a problem for both drivers. He is still allowed to be there, because what the other car is supposed to do is work its way around the outside, not just turn into you. The other car cannot just disappear. The other car has an absolute right to be there.
If I agree with you, will you stop talking?
No, probably not.
Okay.
You don't know me at all.
No, I will agree with you if we are outside of the specific set of guidelines that stewards now use. I will agree with you.
I've already told you I ignore
that
those
would be
guidelines.
a normal thing. However, by the actual guidelines the drivers are supposed to follow, he was entitled to absolutely no space. Sainz had a very clear overspeed, and the only possible outcome of him leaving his nose there was exactly what we saw. So from a rules point of view, can't really blame Sainz for following the rules. However, I did say blame for everybody, so I'm going to blame Sainz real quick. Come on, Behrman's a rookie. He's clearly wants to tangle. And he's obviously not as up on wheel-to-wheel combat as you and, say, Leclerc were a couple of years ago at Ferrari, where you managed to not crash each other. So just being smart as a veteran, you'd be like, yeah, I definitely got him, but he's a rookie, so maybe I leave a tiny bit of extra room so I don't have a crash.
Alex, you're going to want to hear this. I changed my mind.
Okay.
Changed my mind. Sainz didn't have enough to then whip it around the outside and dive straight for the apex, because he was the one overtaking around the outside. That's the argument that's won me over.
Thank you. I'll take that. Just to where you talk about, I'm going to agree with you, Matt, in the sense that where you're a veteran like Sainz, you should know that that person's not going to just disappear and might likely still be there and not just going to concede. We had this with a friend of ours that we used to race with years ago, and he was always, why is it always me? Why am I always the one? Whenever I'm making a move on someone, I'm always the person getting spun round, because he did stuff like this, where there was still a car there, he was turning in, and he was getting spun round. And also, Sainz was not in a good headspace today.
No.
Sainz was in a very bad headspace today, and I'm not remotely surprised that he had an incident today, because he was moaning constantly on the radio, disagreeing with calls. He was not happy that he had to let Alex Albon past him. And I think when you're in a position like that and you're in a headspace like that, incident like this is really obviously going to happen.
It wasn't his fault. He had the bad gloves. Bad battery. He had battery issues, battery deployment issues, and he had the alternate strategy as well. And when they were telling him, we've got to let Albon past, and his reaction was, you can't let Albon past, because, I mean, come on, guys, it's my mum's birthday, and my dog's real sick. And he just didn't have a good answer for why you couldn't let Albon by on the better strategy.
I don't want to bring it up too much, because this is still whose fault is it? But a part of that is going to be Williams' strategy team, because why on earth did they want him to go that deep into the race on the medium tire, which was the primary strategy for most of the teams, medium hard? They just kept him out way too long. And it turns out the opposite strategy was actually better, but nobody knew that before the race.
Before we move on, just notes to the production team. Steve, can we edit out the bit where I agree with Van Gien in the end, or use AI to make it that was my opinion? And after the Tamburello, just edit out all the corrections. No, if I'd have said turn to the second chicane was Tamburello, 3 nerds would email me and I'd just block them. Be fine. Okay, so right, we can move on now. Antonelli versus Albon. I missed that entirely, Matt. What happened there?
I think basically Antonelli ran Albon off the track, trying to make up positions because he was out of place. And then he wound up going off track himself and getting a penalty for driving erratically, which is actually a 3 track limits violation.
Kimi was a nightmare this weekend. He finally got it together for Q3, but Kimi was a nightmare this weekend. He binned it in practice. He was all over the place throughout the race. He had a very erratic race. And what he did to Alex Albon was they came out of the first chicane, and as they were heading up to Curva Grande, Kimi just continually moved to the left to run Alex off the circuit. And it's just like, and it was move, stop, move Alex on the grass, and then he moved away. And you just can't do that, Kimi. I'm worried for Kimi.
Yeah.
I expected Kimi to be, and I like Kimi. I think he's a lovely lad.
Great hair. My goodness. Incredible
he's
hair.
A child. They've all got great hair when they're children. I posted a photo in my kart group the other day from 2011, and the first comment was, "You had dark hair." I'm like, oh my God.
You had more hair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they didn't even go there.
Well, you should sign up for Him's Hair. Then you can get a free consultation using Missed Apex as the offer code.
My barber keeps telling me when. He keeps telling me he'll tell me when.
Oh, Alex, your barber is lying to you.
It still gets busy. Anyway.
My barber's recommending people now that can take some hair from the back and put it on the front.
Trip to Turkey.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm worried for Kimi. I expected him to be not on top of George because of how highly I rate George, but at least, on his heels, causing him issues, but I'm worried for Kimi. I expected.
Yeah, and it's race after race. So there was more rumblings, and now it's continuing. And yeah, it's a couple of erratic weekends in a row. All of the individual things, like there's no one thing we go, oh no, that's outrageous. He's hit a couple of people. He's been in the gravel a few times. He's had a few off sessions. He's hit Albon today as well. But altogether, it's starting to build up into a big pattern.
Teenagers. Am I right?
Teenagers, man.
It's the thing we warned about.
Yeah.
The thing everyone worried about. Not that he's not absolutely talented enough to deserve to be where he's being, but he absolutely was not experienced enough. And, we talk a lot about Norris and pressure, but to me, this is his home race. When they let him loose last season in a Mercedes, he smashed it into the wall.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why you want him in, well, not a Williams of this season, but the equivalent of a Williams, where he can just drive around at the back and learn his craft.
Maria says Antonelli hasn't shown any impressive peak yet. That's the other thing. Hasn't he been out qualified by Russell 100% of the time? No. Mm-hmm. Is it not?
I think he's got one.
The sprint qualifying in Miami.
And he has got one podium.
Yeah, when his teammate won the race.
Yes.
So I don't think he's got beaten Russell in a race. It's something nil, isn't it?
I think possible.
On a race that George has finished, yeah, I think
sure.
So.
Yeah, where cars are finished.
But I will say his biggest talent is in the wet, and that is why they brought him up, because that is really something that when he is very special.
But also
like that.
But also, their hand was forced by Lewis. They couldn't send him to Williams because they had Sainz and Albon, so they had nowhere to send him. And Lewis left them. They needed a driver.
That's definitely a topic. That feels like a mid-season review or off-season topic. But let's stick to the race review. The last whose fault is it is Stroll versus Ocon, and I'm just going to light the touch paper between Alex and Matt, and I'm just going to walk away. This is not my fight.
Right, I'll start.
Yeah,
because I can end it straight away. It's fine. Even though only against Matt, so he's never going to let it just be ended. So before we actually go into this, it's another one of these cases of another driver moving over and pushing another driver onto the grass. It is as simple as that. Matt is going to come and argue that Stroll turned up in the braking zone. However, the braking zone for that chicane is about the 75-meter board. I have a picture on my screen of Stroll within the bounds of Ocon's car by about the 125-meter mark. God. At that point, he is enough alongside that Ocon can't keep moving left. Ocon hadn't really properly started braking yet, and Ocon then just swipes Stroll off the circuit, a bit like every other one that we've blamed the guy coming across for previously.
I've got it on my screen. Just say you printed it out. I have it printed out.
I'm not Jarno Trulli.
I have it printed out. Jarno Trulli?
It was Jarno Trulli.
Who did what? I have it printed out.
Oh my
Toto
God.
Wolff.
He had the diagram
from Brazil.
Weeks about that with what's his name? About whose fault it was, and the other guy kept on looking at him like, really? Really? Are we still like?
Sorry to everyone's speakers who got blown out by Van Gien there. By the way, I'll try and fix that in post. When I get rid of the Tamburello correction, I'll fix that. Yeah. Go on, Matt. The defense. I like how Alex did the whole. I'm just a simple country chicken. Matt Trumpets is going to try and tell you here today that Ocon did that. Like, you can't put words in Matt's mouth. Let him argue incorrectly by himself.
It's funny. I think Van Gien there is mistaken a Sharpie drawing for actually going back and looking at the onboards, but that's okay. I can understand these mistakes happen. No, so I'll put it to the audience. It's pretty straightforward. If you have taken a line and you have started braking, and the line and the braking mean that if someone tries to pass you, you're driving into a wedge, and you drive into that wedge and then blame the other person, whose fault is that really? And now we're talking about onboard evidence. So I went back, I looked at the Ocon onboard, and I looked at the Stroll onboard because the replay they showed on the television was kind of useless. And what I discovered was at about the 100-meter mark, Stroll was not alongside Ocon at all.
Oh,
and then that was a 10:44 timestamp. If you go back and look at the F1 TV
I'm
onboard.
Looking at a screenshot here that Alex has posted.
10:45,
Alex wins.
You know when you're sitting at poker and you know you've got a pair of aces and there's already a pair of aces already on the on from the flop.
And at the 10:45 stamp, a second later, Ocon was already 3 gears down, and Stroll just kept on coming alongside him, driving into the grass because there was nowhere else to go. I mean, it's pretty simple. Stroll just didn't brake, and Ocon took his normal braking point there. And because he had already set his line and was braking, I mean, I'm going to ask you this, Alex. If someone says, well, you're braking, but someone came alongside, so now you need to move, is that an easy thing to do with your steering wheel once you're braking?
Shouldn't you be braking generally in a lane, like in a straight line?
He was in a lane. If you watch his steering wheel, it doesn't move for quite some time because he's going back because of the nature of how the track moves. What you're seeing is moving to the outside is actually him moving in a straight line. And you get that at Barcelona too.
Okay.
And I've seen it happen in sim races.
Can I have a quick comment here? Because Alex has posted the screenshots, and A, at 100 meters, Stroll is alongside already, and B, like Ocon clearly moves over to the right between those two screenshots.
He's moving in a straight line.
To the right.
No, but it doesn't.
No,
it doesn't
he's
matter.
moving in a straight line. Go look at the pictures in our WhatsApp.
Unfortunately, Matt, that doesn't matter because his straight line still puts him cutting across another car.
Wasn't there when he took that line.
Unfortunately,
and he was already
okay, guys,
braking.
One at a time.
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah.
Thing is, though, is Stroll was there the whole time, and it's a carbon copy of all the other ones that we've seen before. It doesn't matter whether he held his steering wheel straight or not. As you've just said, the tracks aren't necessarily straight, and you have to go within the confines of what is around you and stick to your lane. And lanes move, and lanes aren't necessarily straight. Stroll, and bearing in mind, you have me defending Lance Stroll.
Yeah, I know. This is crazy.
So if I was going to put anything at blame for somebody blithering across the circuit and hitting someone, it's going to be Lance Stroll. So the fact that it is Ocon, and the problem was the second I saw this happen and I saw the replay, I'm like, oh God, I'm going to have an argument with Matt about this because he's not going to see it. And it's exactly what it is. Unfortunately, Matt, it is like every other one we've looked at.
So I think just the clarifying rule for me there would be that you have to, on a straight, you have to leave room to the edge of the track. So you're not entitled just to keep moving over. You have to leave a space. All the time you have to leave the space. Okay, I think we've made our points there. Unless Matt has a closing argument.
My closing argument is very simple. If I've started braking and then you rock up beside me, that's a you problem, not a my problem. And we used to all the time smash people for driving into a disappearing wedge. That's what Stroll did.
Oh, that's more of a corner. This is a straight.
If you're basing it on the picture you've taken the photo of, Ocon deserves to be overtaken because he's braking way before the braking zone. That's not even at the bridge yet.
Okay, now we're just going into slander, but that was our segment of Whose Fault Is It?
Whose fault is it?
Okay, there's some genuine upset on the panel here. I think we may have done some serious emotional damage. However, let's just round off the midfield. I think there was a battle between Ferrari and Mercedes, and Ferrari came out on top. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton had to deal with that 5-place grid penalty. I feel like out of the two teams, Ferrari is going away satisfied, but I feel like they shouldn't. Like I wish they. Why are they satisfied? But yeah, Matt, I think Ferrari have kind of won that battle, and they seem resigned to the kind of results and the kind of car that they can get, and they're happy with their 4th and 6th.
Well, all these things are relative expectation wise, and if I'm Ferrari, the things that I'm taking out of this right now are that we are clear of Mercedes, 20 points now in the Constructors' Championship. Leclerc was in his own race relative to Russell. Russell was not really close to him. And Hamilton, who started in 10th place, came back and was very close to being directly behind Leclerc. And he sounded, as other people have said, happy on the radio. Now, he's still not happy with the car overall, but if I started the season with a car that was fundamentally broken, And I've gotten it to the point where, aside from Max sometimes and McLaren all the time, I'm the fastest team consistently. Well, then yeah, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was.
Yeah, so Hamilton was really different on the radio, and great job, guys. Really super positive. Hey, that pit stop was great, even though I messed it up. And I don't know, it feels like maybe they had, did they have that movie scene where they all go out for a beer and they kind of hash out their differences? What's really been bothering you, Lewis? And it's all kind of poured out. Their blue liveries and caps were amazing. I want that blue cap. But is this hope, Alex? Because you and I, as Hamilton fans, I think we're both leaning to the side of, well, this could just be the decline, and there'd be no shame if it was. But, he looked pretty on pace with Leclerc the last couple of weekends. Yeah, kind of.
So, first of all, he did just drive himself into a wall in the last race.
Yeah, but hang on, wasn't there some excuse?
Which he doesn't do.
Hang on, there was an excuse. There was an issue. There was some kind of mechanical issue, they said. Which I believe. I just choose to believe whatever it was. But apparently, yeah,
you take that hopium pill, and we'll keep going. Anyway, as far as this weekend is concerned, yes, he drove very well. He did a okay qualifying. He probably could have done a place higher, but he was fine. Whatever. Did a really good job getting back up to 6th place really quickly, which was really nice to see. Good. He was aggressive. Yeah. He made the right moves at the right time. And then he did his normal thing, which is he got quite close to George, knew he couldn't fight George, hung back, he lost like a second and a half in a couple of laps, and then just stayed there and matched George. The mistake Ferrari then made for this race, for Hamilton's race, was they just left him out there in no man's land, dropping further and further back from a George Russell who'd pitted. They should have given him the chance to at least keep the gap small and go fighting for it afterwards. But if you watch the times between Lewis and Leclerc, and I'm a fanboy, so I did, Leclerc was always faster.
Yeah.
The entire time.
No, and so Mia there is going, well, 0.1 seconds, and I assume she means qualifying is not a decline. But you have to take into account that Monza is a place where the drivers can't make as much of a difference as they can in other tracks. And also, it's been resurfaced. It was the fastest lap ever. Some of those corners are much straighter, and they're losing a lot less time in a lot of the corners, spending less time turning. So really here, I think the entire grid in Q1 from P1 to P15 was 0.5 seconds. So, yeah, so the 0.1, it sounds close, but you have to just factor in the fact that how close the times were and why.
So just to jump on that point, let's not forget this is the track that convinced everyone Nick DeVries could be a Formula One driver because it has so few turns.
God, that just feels, come on. That's other podcasts.
Sorry. I mean, it's a bit niche, but since you brought up the point about the track, I felt like that supported your point. I'm just trying to be a supportive co-host here.
Yeah, Antonelli still managed to find a FP1 in the wall when he was doing his trial runs with Mercedes.
I think that Ferrari was probably trying to give him a bit more tire offset against Russell.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense to me. But I'm going to put it up there right now, having looked at how the midfield turned out, and specifically Alex Albon. And just going to make your head explode. I think he would have done a lot better if they'd started him on the hard tire.
Yes. And so in my quali review thing, my little quali reaction, I was saying that this wasn't an ideal candidate for that alternative strategy if you wanted to give it a go. But also, I've got the feeling that maybe they were goal hanging for a safety car as well. So yeah, that's a valid tactic, I suppose.
I think if they'd put Lewis on the hard tyre to start the race, he wouldn't have been as aggressive at the start, been able to actually get back up to 6th. So by the time they'd put the medium tyre on him, he'd have been so far behind it wouldn't have mattered either way. That's been the issue when you put them on the harder tyres at these particular points. Whenever they do these strategies for Lewis and they put him on the harder tyre, he's not aggressive enough, can't get through the field, and then it makes no difference.
Remind me where Albon, who started in like 13th on the hard tire or 14th on the hard tire, finished. Remind me again, where did he finish? Oh yeah, he finished 6th. He would have certainly finished. He would have been fine on the hard tire, Alex.
The problem is previous strategies, it hasn't worked out.
And also
were the
Matt's
strategies at this racetrack? No, they were not.
Also, Matt said it in quite a mean way. I really feel like you had an effect on him with that Ocon versus Stroll argument. And now Matt's turned into the incredible Trumpets. I think that's what. That's what's
I always like to think
I'm not going to fight this one. I'm not going to fight this one too hard. I just don't think it would have happened because we've seen it far too often.
Okay, but a glimmer of hope for Hamilton fans. And hey, look, if he turns around and starts going toe to toe and trading with results with Leclerc, then I will be very, very happy that I've been overly pessimistic, and I hope that happens, and that we can. It's got to start happening before the end of the season, so we can start feeling optimistic for 2026. I don't want to have all winter having that feeling that even if Ferrari come out with a great car, it's going to be Leclerc anyway, which wouldn't make me sad. I like Leclerc just fine, but I would like to see some results from Lewis if it's going to happen. It's got to happen before the end of the season. So Mercedes, though, I think we've pretty much covered the three drivers. I think if Hamilton, we've covered Antonelli, Leclerc a little bit. We always get accused of only talking about Leclerc in relation to Hamilton, but once again, he seems to be delivering what that Ferrari can deliver fairly consistently. I know, and he didn't mug Russell this time. He didn't get in the way of Antonelli. Oh, by the way, last week, I know this is going back a bit. Me and Alex were arguing about Russell versus Leclerc. I'm not going to rehash that now. But someone said to me, Antonelli was actually ahead at the apex. But it's just that they're so far apart and so wide that it didn't look like it. But I ran the tape back, and I think this guy has a point. Look at the Zandvoort incident where Antonelli took out Leclerc. I think technically, by the rules, Antonelli was actually alongside at the apex and then ended up chinning. I'm still saying it's Antonelli.
Tell me where the apex is in that corner and tell me if anyone ever goes anywhere near the apex ever.
Well, it's where this person drew the apex, and I just believed it because I was busy. Have a look. Going back and have a look at it. But look, again, it's like with last week, people saying, "Oh, why are you Lando glazing?" Well, because Piastri was off in the lead. What do you want us to say about him? That's a little bit the case with Leclerc. He is quite boringly maximising what Ferrari can do at the moment, and so probably is Russell. Would you still say you're optimistic about Russell this season, Alex?
Yeah, I think Russell's been probably second or third best driver this season. I think he's done very, very well. He's made very few mistakes. He's been incredibly quick. He's got that Mercedes to places where maybe it shouldn't be. And I just think he's done it. He's done it all quite well. He hasn't caused any problems. So I think George had a really good season. I mean, up until when he was like never out of the top 5 for the first like 10 races or whatever it was, really, really showed that his maturity. And the whole thing of him not having Hamilton anymore and having that massive chip on his shoulder of I must beat Lewis has kind of chilled him out and matured him into a much better driver. Even if he is a big baby over the radio.
Yes, Snitcherton. Just end this segment here with people actually having a go at us in the chat, Alex, about being too pessimistic. Someone saying, "Can we please stop the pessimism with Hamilton?" Well, can we have like one result? We had one, didn't we? We had the China sprint race and then Silverstone. Is that it? Are those the only times he's finished ahead of? He's finished ahead of Leclerc twice, I think, all season.
However, the difference is the qualifying, and qualifying is the thing that comes last when you're adapting to a new car, because you're at the absolute limit of the car's ability to grip the track. And Leclerc has a lot more experience there, and he's also younger. So neither of these is surprising, but because everyone is so close this season, a 10th or 2 tenths is 4 or 5 places, and then suddenly, even if he has a really good race, and I think he's had some decent races in terms of optimizing what's possible, he's still not going to catch him and pass him. And so that today actually was the closest I've seen it look, because there was a little while where he was actually faster than Leclerc in the early phase of the first stint. But then he slowed back, and it seemed like there was either some fuel management or some brake management going on with both cars that required them to have these phases. So I think that might have been a mirage, but fundamentally in the race department, I don't think they're very far apart at all. Qualifying is what he needs to get better at. And if the car is not to his liking, that's always going to be a little bit of an extra challenge.
when there's things to celebrate, believe me, I will be the first person, and we'll edit out every single bit of doubt I ever had throughout the whole of this season. But before we move on to the awards, I just want to say, hey, we are a Patreon-supported podcast, so if you want to support us for a little while, it's still at $5 a month. We've kept it pretty static, and you can get an ad-free feed, join our Patreon Discord, and be the first to know about all Missed Apex stuff. But mostly, you're the guys that are helping us fight in the charts. So yes, we don't do great on YouTube, which is why we're trying to upload the segments to make them more palatable. But in the audio charts, we're on a Monday, we're the 4th or 5th review episode, and that's great. And that's because we can throw resources at it because you guys support us. That's the only reason we can throw resources at the show, and the reason we can do more shows and do things like the qualifying reviews and midweek shows. So consider supporting us at patreon.com/Missed Apex. Follow Missed Apex F1 on Instagram and Spanners Ready on Instagram. On TikTok, it's at Missed Apex F1, and on Twitter, I'm still there as Spanners Ready there, and on Blue Sky. Alex Van Gene, thank you for joining us today. Where can people find your karting videos?
Yes, my karting videos are on at Alex Van Gene Racing on YouTube. There's a couple of recent videos up there from a couple of weeks ago, and then I'm racing again in a couple of weeks at Clay Pigeon, where I had got my first podium last year. So hopefully it'll be quite good. If I get my kart back together, it's currently in a few pieces in my shed because I need a new rear axle. So got one of those on order coming very, very soon. But yeah, go like, share, subscribe, and all that nice stuff.
I guess, Matt, we can link to his stuff in our show notes. And Matt, where can we find you, and what things are you doing?
You can find me at MattPT55 on the internets, and I do have a concert coming up at the end of September with the New York City Ska Orchestra out on Long Island, and we'll post that a little closer to the date. Excellent.
But follow me first. I'm the best one. It's the podium in the Monza Grand Prix that was populated by Supermax, dominating the weekend and throwing a few overtakes in there and playing engineer as well. So, Verstappen can take a huge amount of credit for this race weekend, bucking the trend of McLaren dominance, joined controversially by Lando Norris in second place and Oscar Piastri in third. Lando Norris booed on the podium, but hey, it's all a bit of pantomime. I don't mind. They paid a lot of money. They can gently and lightheartedly boo if they want. But look, I don't think people like to feel like the race has been manipulated. And when you see things like the Schumacher Massa incidents and Schumacher Barrichello, that's the ones I'm looking at. People don't like team orders, and so there's going to be dozens of articles now on every website across the F1-osphere saying, should we ban team orders? Well, you can't. There's always going to be some sort of secret thing. And if you really want one team to be behind another car, there's always a make the car go pop button. There's always keep that car a few upgrades behind. That's what the top teams do. That's what top teams have done throughout history. I think maybe the best solution is they have a big team meeting between the teams and the FIA saying, hey, let's just hide it better. Let's just be less on top. But I think what happened today was avoidable, was correct, and also I kind of wish they just hadn't bothered doing it and just said sorry to Norris afterwards. So this is the awards section of our show. We do a bad thing award, the Missed Apex award, then we end on a good thing award. So firstly, I'm going to ask who our panel think missed the Apex.
Oh no, you missed the Apex.
Alex Geensy Van Gene, who missed the Apex for you?
It's been so long since I've been on this show. When you mentioned the awards, I'd completely forgotten about it.
I should have gone to Matt
and I had to think of a bad thing. I was going to joke about Ocon violently swiping Lance Stroll off the circuit, but we've done that already.
Too soon.
It's got to be RB and their fumble with Hadjar through qualifying, and the absolute despair of Hadjar in qualifying, knowing that he had not qualified. It's like, of course we're not through. Everything got messed up the whole way through my entire session. Of course I'm not through, and got knocked out of Q1 for the first time in his career.
Yeah, but I feel bad for the engineer. Like, you do have to tell Hadjar that he didn't get through. That's your job. Part of your job will say, report whether you got through or not. And Hadjar just went off at him. And he was so angry in the press conference as well. Like, he has come across like emotional, but pretty chill and pretty happy. But he was fully angry. And I think that dopamine hit from going from your podium, your first podium, and then suddenly your first Q1 exit.
Doesn't that stuff kind of always happen? It's like when Gasly won at Monza that one year, he was then out in Q1 the following race. It's like none of these teams that are sort of mid-pack can have any form of good success. They have to then be massively hit with something terrible the following race.
Yeah, the F1 gods are cruel. And who else has been cruel throughout this whole live stream is Matt Trumpets. Matt, who missed the Apex for you?
Well, this is an interesting one. I'm sort of tempted to go with a particular driver everyone would think of and their team, but I'm actually going to go with the batteries. Because we talked about Sainz and his batteries. He was not the only one having issues with their batteries. And, well, it's not going to get better next year. That's all I'm going to tell you. This is a foreshadowing of what we're going to see. Drivers complaining about batteries. So congratulations, battery manufacturers and regen people. I'm thinking of Alpine and Gasly, who had these issues. In case you're wondering where I heard it on the radio, I saw the team radio for that. And it's going to be a struggle for all teams next season. So, boo.
Batteries. There you go. I'm going to give it to this inanimate carbon rod. No, I'm going to actually give it to Lando Norris for offering to let Piastri have the first stop. They weren't thinking about it. No one was asking you to put yourself in that position. You fully suggested it and then, came up with all the caveats like, oh, as long as it doesn't undercut me. Oh, no, it definitely won't. And to be fair, it definitely didn't in the end. It didn't because the team corrected it. But yeah, the cause of all that is like, Lando Norris, please stop. Don't help Piastri again. You've got 11 starts, including sprint races. You need to win 10 of them. You've got one mulligan, but you need to go and par, or you need to go and par 10 holes out of 11. You can have one where you slip up and have a bogey. No more helping Piastri, because you got to go and win, particularly Baku, Vegas, and Singapore. The tracks where some other teams might enter into the mix. Got to win those. And all of that is like, look forward. Look at what you're doing. Please don't think about your teammate. The Constructors' title is done. They are 4,000 points in the lead right now. You do not have to think about what is best for the overall team positions. So let's end on our positive award, which is the thing of the weekend. Alex Van Geen, who kissed the Apex for you.
Isaac Hadjar, going from pit lane to points. Just a stellar drive from him. He did a absolutely fantastic job. Been doing all the things that he's been doing all season long. I like Hadjar.
I'm wearing a Hadjar top. Just wanted to point that out. But I can't find the 6. There he is. There's the proof. There's the 6. I am wearing a Hadjar.
Is there another number on the other side, though?
No, you think I'm going to have Lawson's number on my shirt?
No, but don't they just print both numbers on?
No, I got to choose because it was like a special Hugo giveaway thing.
Was there just a massive pile of Lawson ones?
No, there was a massive pile of Visa Casap shirts. This is the special Silverstone livery with the Slawn things.
No, you said you got to pick a Hadjar one. So was there just a massive pile of Lawson ones?
The number. Oh yeah, the numbers. So I got to pick the 6. Yeah, there's just like a ton of whatever number Lawson is.
Don't even know what number he is.
No,
don't care.
Yeah. Do you know how hard it was for me to blame Sonoda over Lawson in the Whose Fault Is It? But anyway, that's your thing of the weekend. Matt Trumpets, who kissed the Apex for you?
Well, I've talked about him a couple of times, but it's Albon in the Williams going alternate strategy, 9 places, finishing 6th, not even looking like he worked that hard. Plus giving an amazingly detailed and informative post-race interview. Thanks for all the extra technical info.
He's good at that.
I do appreciate it.
He is good at that. Yeah, he is good for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just absolutely have to give it to Max Verstappen's setup and wing choice for the weekend. And look, it's not interesting to say he drove well. We just know he drives well. His percentage of driving well and making mistakes is amazing. Like he barely puts a foot wrong. His hit rate on delivering what he can deliver is massive. But the thing that stands out for me is that technical decision and that eye to go, we've seen the wear, we can get away with a lower wing. So thing of the weekend for me is Max Verstappen. We will be back midweek with some interesting and fun content, hopefully. I don't have a specific plan, but we've got a bit of a break before we get to Baku. And I know there's a lineup of things I want to do. So more historical episodes with Catman. We want to catch up with ex-strategist Mike Caulfield. We want to have news shows. We want to have mailbag shows. So we will be here. Make sure you subscribe. Right, I looked on the statistics and the amount of people on the audio that find us through a Google search. Same with YouTube. Find us by typing in Missed Apex. No, actually subscribe on the platform that you're listening to. That really, really helps, especially if you have it on auto download on your podcast player. So you're downloading it, ready for your Monday morning commute, but it shows up on the charts on a Monday. And please tell a friend that Missed Apex is kind of okay. It's kind of fun. Tell them to tune in and give us a go. Until we see you next, work hard, be kind, and have fun. This was Missed Apex Podcast. That is our shortest ever race review. That was a specific target of mine, was like, yeah, let's see if we can make it 58 minutes instead of 59.9.